Hey,
Perhaps I can jump in.
yep.
My name is David. I'm based in San Francisco. I'm a background in mechanical engineering, but I've been really enjoying playing around with AI software tools, and I've used 11 Labs, VAPI, and those are the main no-code platforms that I've been getting stuck into. I haven't used n8n, but I've
Mhm.
seen it in a lot of like demo videos, so I'm really curious to see what it looks like live.
Yeah, awesome.
Hi everyone, I'm Sonam. I work as a senior developer advocate at Explain. I live in San Francisco and have used 11 Labs briefly and just exploring voice agents. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Kathy. I'm based in the SF Bay Area. I have not used n8n, but I'm hoping to use 11 Labs for like faceless videos, perhaps.
Okay. All right, awesome. So I think one maybe what we could do, I'm gonna start here. I'm gonna share my screen and I'll do like a brief demo of something I built out pretty quick. But maybe we could do is if anyone has any questions, they could just start adding them in the chat as I go, or even if it's unrelated to the demo, just pop them in there and we'll try to get them answered towards the end. So a little bit about me. My name is Dylan. I've been a lifelong engineer. Me and Michael here we've been founding worldwide studios. So our goal, we help people build, we help people learn to build, and our goal is to help people keep stay up to date with the latest tools and yeah, and build with them. And our passion is AI. So for this, what I did was I put together a simple workflow last night. I went in blind, because I there was a big release last week, 11 Labs and n8n, and my goal was just can I get a voice agent with the two combined. One caveat is that it's still beta, and so the 11 Labs integration is still pretty light. It's there, like if you remember 11 Labs from 6 months, 8 months ago, they didn't even have agents. It was just like voice generation, voice cloning, and that's all they actually have in n8n at this time. So what I tried to do was I tried to use that. I wanted to use that, but then I also used you've used 11 Labs before. If you haven't, I'll give a brief overview. I also use their agent side. So they have a really simple tools where you can add your Twilio phone number, you can call in, and then it works just like another agent. You can add tool calls, tell it what to like, tell it when to call a tool based on conversation. In this case, what I did was I want to do a podcast generator. It's pretty cool. 11 Labs is pretty simple. They have different voices. They're really nice. So I just used the voice agent just to demonstrate that it's possible. I built this really simple one that when I ask it to generate a podcast, it'll say what topic, and then it'll delegate that out to n8n here. And then I'll show this flow in a second, but just to go over it a little bit, like calls the webhook, and then I use OpenAI to actually generate. I can show you a little bit about what that looks like. It just generates a list of objects where there's two speakers talking back and forth about any given topic. I can tell you like the prompt here. I just say you are two experts, William and Candace. You're both extremely well studied in the topic, whatever the topic is. Generate a dialectic between the two discussing the topic, ensure that it gives insight into it and results in some agreed upon conclusion. And then your typical return as a JSON. From there, you have to do a little, n8n isn't perfect, so I have to do a little bit of code to actually take this big object and make it into a form that I can then loop over in n8n. And then I actually get into their 11 labs. So looping over the items, I check, do an if, if the speaker there's only two speakers. So if it's William, I use one voice. If it's Candace, I use the other. And then we delegate it out to 11 labs. This is one of their integrations. Let me just show you exactly what they have.
Could
So,
you zoom in a little bit, please?
can you say that again?
Can you zoom a little bit?
Yes, I
Okay.
think so. How's that? More? Okay.
Good enough. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
much better. Can actually read the text.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I can't see it, so just always feel free to call that out. So here's all they have. This is like their baseline 11 Labs functionality. You can get a voice, get many voices. You can clone a voice, and then like simple convert text to speech, transcribe audio or video, or change of voice. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I just am using the convert text to speech to convert and generate like each of the responses in 11 Labs. I send that to Cloud Convert, which lets me upload the audio file. And then the idea is at the end to aggregate that, and Cloud Convert can let me call with that list of IDs and generate one big audio file that I can then download. That part, it's in an intermediate step. I have one that I generated earlier, but I won't be able to actually demonstrate that because I was hitting some API issues with 11 Labs. But I'm going to do the call, and then you can see how that it runs, and then I will maybe I could show a couple of the actual 11 Labs transcripts, the generated files, and then I have one podcast that I generated previously I can show off.
How can I help you?
Yeah, can you generate me a podcast?
I can help with that. What topic would you like the podcast to be about?
Pros and cons of no-code platforms.
Okay, I've started the podcast generation on the pros and cons of no-code platforms. Is there anything else I can help you with?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Happy I could help with that. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, and you can see it triggers here. Let's see this one. Yeah, here's one answer. Let's just see what it is.
Candace, no-code platforms have fundamentally democratized software development. With tools like Bubble, Webflow, or Airtable, non-technical users can now build applications that would have previously required a development team. This dramatically reduces time to market and lowers the barrier to entrepreneurship.
Now let's see if we can get one from the other voice as well.
That's a sound approach. No code can serve as a bridge between business and engineering, fostering collaboration. So perhaps we can agree no code platforms are transformative for enabling rapid innovation and lowering technical barriers. But they are not a one-size-fits-all solution. Strategic thinking is still paramount.
And David, can you say maybe what you mean about the triggers?
Yeah, when you asked to generate a podcast, there was text on the screen, and I think you also said it like these nodes have been triggered, as in I guess they've been enacted. So I'm curious if that's something that are those thresholds that you set, those triggers, or is that baked in?
So the actual the triggering of the webhook is something that is baked in to 11 Labs. I just take the URL and then I make it a tool call. And so when in conversation, if I ask to generate a podcast, it gathers what information it needs and then it sends to that web. Kind of like if you ever worked with a code backend. I mean, n8n is kind of like a no-code backend
Okay,
platform.
that answers my question. Thanks.
Okay, awesome. And then I have one I generated earlier. You maybe forgive the topic. In testing, I asked it like a T-Rex versus a grizzly bear, and that was the first thing that came to mind. So it's not a technical topic, but they have a good conversation nonetheless. And here's kind of maybe David just to go in like here's what it looks like when I was testing. I wasn't testing on 11 Labs initially. I just was making like curl requests, and here's what the call to 11 or to n8n looks like. Looks like just a basic backend
Got
request
it.
with a JSON object topic. You can see here T-Rex versus grizzly bear.
Got it.
Let's begin with the obvious size disparity. Tyrannosaurus rex was approximately 40 feet long and weighed around 9 tons. In contrast, the largest grizzly bears top out around 1,000 pounds. That's a magnitude difference in both mass and reach.
Absolutely, but size isn't the only factor. Bears have powerful limbs, a high degree of intelligence, and agility. In close quarters, those claws and muscle coordination could be an advantage, though I admit it's unlikely to tip the scales significantly against a full-grown T-Rex.
Indeed, and the jaws of T-Rex, with a bite force exceeding 12,000 pounds per square inch, would likely end the fight quickly if it connects. And given its binocular vision and reasonable turning radius considering its size, it wouldn't be too clumsy in isolating a much smaller opponent like a bear.
One could make the argument that the grizzly's dexterity might allow it to exploit weak points, perhaps the legs or neck, but that would require the bear to approach undetected or avoid the initial bite. Against a predator used to downing multi-ton prey, that seems a losing gamble.
Add to that the fact that T. rex's musculature and bone structure indicate a level of athleticism that's often underestimated. It wasn't just large, it was likely quick over short distances. The bear simply lacks the tools to deal a mortal blow in return.
Agreed. If we're considering a neutral, unarmed confrontation, the outcome heavily favors the T-Rex. While grizzlies are formidable within their own ecosystems, they're dramatically outmatched here. The mismatch in scale, weaponry, and evolutionary purpose is simply too great.
So, in conclusion, while it's intriguing to imagine, and the bear is undeniably a powerful predator, in any realistically modeled combat scenario, the Tyrannosaurus rex would dominate due to its overwhelming advantages in size, bite force, and killing adaptations.
Exactly. It's a landslide in favor of T-Rex. The grizzly, as magnificent as it is, cannot compete with a theropod specifically evolved to take down creatures many times larger than itself. Science and the fossil record clearly support that conclusion.
All right. And the nice thing about AI is that they actually were able to agree in the end. If there were real people, that would not have happened. Okay. So I think I can open up for QA. Maybe I would just end with a summary. I've worked with n8n on quite a few things. I think if you jumped on early enough, you probably heard me and Michael kind of talking about this. I think no code platforms are really good at doing these integrations, but like one thing that I guess spent more time on this than I wanted to because like looping over these items, generating this, getting the ID back from Cloud Convert is really easy, and then trying to get that into an array like you would do pretty trivially on something like Python was a big pain. And you can't actually do that in 8n because I mean, I guess they have implementation reasons. The data flows out, but it never actually comes back. So it's like each of these is probably running on their own thread or something like that. So in order to do that, in order to aggregate like that, you need to really delegate out to like a spreadsheet or something, which they integrate nicely with Google Sheets. It's just I didn't have an API set up in time to demonstrate that. So they do integrate nicely with things, but like if you're used to writing code or even I don't know, like even things like spreadsheets will probably do this nicely. There's going to be things that you hit in n8n that you think, wow, how can they do all this other stuff so great? And then this they can't. Um, so yeah, can be frustrating, but also can aid in getting things built quickly. So trade off like anything else. And we'll open that up to questions. I see David already asked, how did I figure out the blocks to link up in n8n? I think so. This is pretty easy for me just because I've worked with n8n before. I've done a lot of webhooks like in code and stuff like that. So I know like every no code platform probably has webhooks. Call it to OpenAI was my first thought was I want to generate a podcast, so I need to call a model. 11 Labs, I just looked like I went in kind of blind and was like, let's see what nodes 11 Labs is going to provide me, and then I came up with the idea for a podcast generator from there. And then like this cloud convert thing, I mean, HTTP request is simple, but knowing cloud convert, I just got that from ChatGPT trying to figure out how can I, because again, it's one of those things like if I was running it in code, I could use something like FFmpeg to automatically combine the files, but because it's in 8n, I can't do that. I have to find some like cloud service. So I just got that cloud convert from ChatGPT.
And can you show us what it looks like to actually like open up a new 11 Labs node? Can you show some of the things that you found when you were kind of discovering the new updates from the last week?
Yeah, sure. I don't know where I put that. Maybe I don't need to actually demonstrate it, but I could just show like if I wanted to add a new node, I would just come in here. Um, let's see. Like converting text to speech is pretty. Maybe what I can do is maybe instead of that, let me just create a new one, like a really simple workflow, personal. Always save. And then we'll just manually trigger this. out of OpenAI. Message a model, and then here, generate me a poem about San Francisco. Execute that step. It's really, let me choose this. N8n is really nice that can execute each step along the way. So it's really, I think it's better for testing than most of the other no code platforms. And even like code itself, without doing a ton of work, you can you can like isolate each step pretty nicely. So with that finished, now I have a poem, and then I can just 11labs, convert text to speech. Just drag, we'll choose a new voice. I don't know, say Clyde. And then you can just kind of drag and drop things, which is also pretty nice. Make sure that's all right. And then execute, that fully generate.
City by the bay, where morning fog like curtains sweep across the Golden Gate's high keep, a city wakes with whispered grace, reflected light on water's face. The cable cars with cheerful sigh climb hills that stretch into the sky, their bells a song, a clanging chime that marks the rhythm, beats of time. Painted ladies proudly stand, Victorian dreams at Alamo's land, with colors bright and stories deep. They watch the city's pulse and sleep. The sea breeze brings a poet's tune, from fairy horns to cries of loon, while Chinatown's red lanterns gleam in alleyways where dragons dream. From North Beach cafes brewing verse to Mission murals, wild and terse. This city's soul, a woven thread of countless voices, living, dead. At dusk, the lights around the pier like constellations drawing near, and shadows stretch from Sutro's height to bathe Twin Peaks in twilight's light. Oh, San Francisco, windswept, free, you dance between the land and sea, forever bold, forever new, a skyline etched in ocean blue.
All right. Yeah, I think the one thing about running on a Mac is I have no idea what's actually playing that file, so I can't like pause it or kill it. Otherwise, I would have. Sonam asked, how complex of a workflow can n8n handle? Like, does it slow down due to complexity? No, it doesn't. It doesn't slow down. I've seen some pretty like giant ones. So it can get pretty complex. I think the hangups are really going to be on architecture. Architecture wise, it's pretty simple and there's a lot of caveats, like I said. It's mostly just chaining together third-party services. There are like I demonstrated some, there's ifs and loops and things like that, but I don't know. I think I've seen people where there's like hundreds of nodes on there, and I think at that point, like it doesn't seem easier than code when you get to something that complex. But it definitely it doesn't slow down. I mean, it's running on the cloud, and you can even self-host it, and scale up as much as you want. I think that's the one benefit of n8n over the other no codes is that it's open source, and you can just like npm pull it. If we wanted to A/B test this, what are our options? Or is it always trial and error? I think that depends on the use case. Can you say maybe a little bit more about what you mean by A/B test? I think if you wanted to, yeah.
Yeah, so like let's say this wasn't just generate a poem or whatever, it was like a chat agent or something.
Hmm.
And like there's a customer sat after each engagement. Is there a way to like test the prompts in an easier way than like, oh, you see like a whole bunch of sat rates are going down, so you're going to change the prompt a little. Is there
Hmm.
a way where you can set up several and then eventually the ones that have higher sat rates, let that be the like the winning one?
There's nothing like that built in. That's like something you have to kind of build yourself. But there is support for everything you would need to do that. I mean, you can do like variable based prompts. You can pull the prompts from a third third-party repository, and you could like build a feedback loop that way. But n8n definitely doesn't have support for anything more than, I mean, it's kind of like Python or something. Like, yeah, you could do it in Python, but like it's not out of the box.
Cool, thanks. Like, so you could hook it up to like an MCP server that would then like add that
Yeah.
functionality in. Okay,
Yeah, and they integrate with I don't know that they integrate with all model providers, but like they integrate with most of the big ones, and they have support for basically all of the out of the box features in all the models.
cool, thanks.
David asked, could you weigh pros and cons of n8n versus Replit versus Cursor? Yeah, I can. So I think they're different. Replit and Cursor are probably closer to one another than n8n. I don't know that the n8n is a competitor with, let's just say Replit. Cursor is kind of code on your own, but like both n8n and Replit are like they host for you. But I don't think they're really competitors because n8n really is it really is just a drag and drop no code platform. And so it's not targeting people who are like building full apps. You can do that. You could build a whole backend in n8n. I don't know, like I was saying a second ago, when you get to that level, it's probably not easier than code though. So I don't know that that's its great use case. While Replit is really good at that. It's you can generate code in Replit, you can code in Replit, you can collaborate. I have a couple clients that use Replit and we can like get on and write code almost like Notion, with code. Um, Compared to Cursor, which is really just like a VS Code fork where you're writing code locally. It just has AI integrations.
Hmm.
Replit, like if I had to choose one, I don't know, maybe Replit just because you can write code in Cursor, deploy it, and like sync it to Replit and then handle your deployments. And I think if you're building like a big complex application, Replit would probably win out for me at least though, but I come from code. Like I started in code.
Got it. Maybe just a quick follow-up question on that. What, having used n8n and these other tools, where do you see n8n, its utility for like prototyping, um, versus the other two, or yeah, uh, in what scenario would you choose n8n versus the others?
I think n8n is closer to like make.com or Zapier. It's really good in the like if you I don't know if people who do deep tech can't relate, but if you have like a little like you have a business where you solve real problems and you just happen to have like some AI augmentation, then something like n8n or Zapier is really good to get something up quickly. Like, oh, I need to be able to like pull data from the spreadsheet, send out emails, pull these emails, put it in a spreadsheet or Airtable or something like that. It's really, really good at that kind of syncing. And then webhooks let you like if you then want to turn that into real software, webhooks can start to like it can act as your backend in that intermediate state. But I think if you're starting in like a pure tech, even like maybe a pure SaaS or something, I would probably say n8n is not ideal unless you don't know how to code yet. And then it's probably going to be a lot faster than trying to learn to code or even to vibe code, which can get complex quick.
Got it. Thank you.
I think for Sol's question, what about a great tool for building a corporate site similar to WordPress with minimal code? I think Michael actually can answer that better. Yeah, better than me because he does a lot of the like the web design stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I would say if you're looking Sol to get like exposure into vibe coding, I would say Lovable is really good design. Lovable or Bolt are both ones that you can one shot and then give feedback on the design if you're looking to code it. If you want more customization, like custom features or different things, would recommend Cursor. You have more access to the command line interface and you can chat with different files. And if you're just looking for no code solutions, I think a lot of AI coded websites look like AI coded websites right now. And there's some ways around that, and there's some ways it's a little bit unavoidable. So some no code platforms can actually help you make really good visual websites like Framer or Typrim. So yeah, depending on what you're looking for, you can try out different ones.
Awesome. Yeah, and I
Hey,
think if
thank you. Appreciate that.
if you're just like I want a WordPress alternative, I think Framer looks like the like if you just want a landing page or something and maybe a small blog, Framer looked like good to me. All right. Any last questions or all right, if not, I'll leave it open. Yeah, we'll be here like we got 3 more minutes, so I'll leave it open if anyone wants to ask any more questions or call anything out.
Brent, when
Anyone
when
missed? Anyone based out of Miami area?
You said Miami?
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm in Seattle, but I have some friends in Miami. The last company I was at was actually out of Miami, and I really like the tech scene down there.
Okay, cool, cool. No.